computer. Perfect. Okay, so welcome to the breastfeeding, pumping, and tricks and tips by me. I am not a breastfeeding consultant. I am not a counselor. So there's a difference between the two. A consultant has a degree in some sort of medicine, and a counselor goes through a course and does not have any sort of medical background, but obviously has amazing experience or has a drive and love for breastfeeding and pumping, I guess. I'm not either of those, so this is just strictly from experience and things that I have found and researched. I'm a Google queen, so anything that I have Googled, you'll see in this presentation for information. I didn't really source everything because I'm just not being a proper person, so don't go to the breastfeeding pumping police and call me out, because it's just sourced from, like I said, Google searching, obviously reference sources like Medela, Spectra. You'll see their titles in some of the images that I used. But I'm hoping, bear with me, that the Wi-Fi is going to behave. That's why I'm up in this. This is like my brother's old room. Okay. So let's see. Okay, every journey is unique. So I did just mention before starting that majority of us here have this idea that we're going to breastfeed and potentially pump for freedom, pump for some help from other people, or pumping to store for going back to work, which is fantastic, because that's exactly what my journey has been now 2 times. Do what's best for you. So that's this idea of follow your mama gut. So I'm going to be honest that breastfeeding and pumping is quite the experience and journey. It's not all roses and rainbows and unicorns. You're not always going to be happy about the process, but if you've set your mind on the idea of reaching a goal. So I saw somebody wrote a goal of, I'm just going to try to get through 0 to 3 months. Awesome, small, short, attainable goal. You know, in my mind, when I started my journey, it was, I was going to get to 12 months and I didn't care what it took. There was tears. There was times where I thought I was going to quit, but you will make it happen if it's worth it for you. So do what is best for you. You want to obviously be a good mom. You want to feel good about your day-to-day life. You don't want to be like dragging because you have to pump or do whatever. But like I said, do what's best for you. Every journey is unique and there's no right or wrong to your journey. So the first question that I always ask people is, what is your goal, or why do you have that goal? So make sure it's for you. So like I just said, I read somebody wrote a goal of 0 to 3 months, just want to get through that. And then anything after that is like sprinkles on top of the ice cream. Fantastic. But you need to know what you want. Like I said, if I decide that I'm going to do something, I'm going to freaking do it. So I set myself out that I was going to do a year of strictly breast milk for Jack, and I did that. Like I wasn't letting anything stand in my way. Now for Ella, and I'm going to explain my story in a minute, she's already had formula, and it was what it was. And I'll explain what that means in a second. But you have to know what you want and why you have that goal, and it's not for anybody else but yourself. So my story, there's my 2 little milk babies. Jack is 18 months now, even though they look like they could be twins. Jack is 18 months now, but he was born in August of 2019, and he was 11 days late per the doctor's date and 18 days late per my date. And geez, he came out ready to eat, which gross and too much information, but you know, he passed his meconium poop and he was eating that. And honestly, that's a normal thing. Disgusting. But because of that, he had to be nothing by mouth for 24 hours. And being a new mom, I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but okay, sure. Like, take him to the nursery, do whatever you need to do. I have no idea. And it was great because then I was able to actually sleep for the first 24 hours before I had to be like a mom. But the question is, okay, so then what happens to your breast milk, right? So for my moms that are pregnant on here, you have to initiate the letdown. You have to initiate the journey starting. And so for Jack, him being nothing by mouth for the first 24 hours of his life, that puts me at a setback of getting my journey started of breastfeeding. So they encouraged me to pump. And so I kind of looked at it as a medical necessary. It was like medicine that I needed to pump, and it was fine. Like I was totally okay with it. I didn't really know any different. So you hear a lot of things, and I know people have said this to me before, is I don't know if I should pump or not, because, you know, so many things say to wait to establish your milk supply for the first 12 weeks, da, 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 da. For me, it wasn't an option. I had to pump. There was no option. I had to get the milk flowing so that at that 24-hour mark, Jack could get whatever I had. So that worked for me. Now, I was so excited because Miss Ella came out and she was doing great. She was a preemie. She came, she hasn't even hit her fixed monthly age. Her due date is March 9th, but she came early, and I postpartum am like a total mess, like shakes and can't even really function. It happened for both of my babies, where I just like was totally out of it. And because I had preeclampsia with Ella, they had me on magnesium, and magnesium makes you like super sleepy and drowsy. So I literally was like, just give her whatever she needs, because there was no way I was going to breastfeed her. Like I just couldn't even like get myself to get there. So there's Johnny on the side feeding her formula, which I can't even believe I agreed to, but I said, go ahead. Like I'm not in a place to be able to feed her, and she needs to eat. And being a preemie, it's very well known that they're going to lose birth weight, and Jack lost birth weight too, but Ella lost 9% of her birth weight in the first couple of days of life. And so once you get close to that 10% weight loss, they get really concerned. And so we were doing a process, and it was funny because like 20 minutes before the doctors came in to tell me to do this, I was saying, oh, it's so great that I don't have to pump. Like I can pump if I want, but I don't have to, like I had to with Jack. And the pediatrician came in and said, okay, so here's the deal. You're going to do breastfeeding, then you're going to pump, then you're going to top off with some formula. And I was like, what in the world am I getting myself caught up in right now? Like that is like a full-time job. And the idea was that, you know, yes, she was breastfeeding, but she was probably really sleepy. I know Noelle and I talked about this, about how these preemies, they're just so sleepy because they're not their age yet. And so they're just like, kind of like, I'll just snuggle you. I don't really need to drink the milk, but they don't know. Right. And so, the pumped milk that I would have from the previous feed, I would give her after I would breastfeed. And then I called the formula ice cream and said, this is her dessert. And so, like I said, each story was different. I had no intention of pumping, but medically, I think both of the scenarios led to me to believe that it was what was meant to be. And because of that, I have a crazy, ridiculous stash. My mother keeps calling me the human cow, for already for Ella, for when I do have to return to work in 3 months. So, I mean, enough with my story. We will get to how I got to where I am, and what works for me. And we're going to go through pumps and different things for time saving, and of course, hand saving. Let's be real. The amount of bottles and things and hand sanitizer we're using, our hands are super dry. So let's get down into that business right now. So totally out of the ordinary for me to be able to be like anatomy of a mom of a breast, but it's very helpful for you to understand some of the things and some of the tricks and tips that I have, to understand the actual anatomy. Okay, so as you can see here, there's like these tree-like figures, right? And those are, you know, where the milk comes through. What I want to point out the most is the lobule. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, so don't quote me, but these little like balls at the end, which actually are up into your armpit, up into your chest, like really, really high. Those are like the fattiest part of the milk. Okay, sounds ridiculous, but that's what's going to keep your baby feeling full. That's it's called hind milk. We're going to get into that a little bit in a minute. But one of the amazing tools that I use, and I'm going to show you in a bit, helps let all of that milk out and makes your baby full. Okay, so just understand that it's not just in your boob where the milk is made. It's all the way up into your armpit, underneath, into your chest, into your upper here. It's kind of crazy. I didn't know that until I met with one of the lactation consultants at the hospital that I was at. And so one of the other things that I've Googled many, many times, and I had to Google it this time, is the anatomy of a baby's belly. Okay. The first day that the baby is born, it is so small. And each day it grows a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, but you have to understand that the amount of milk that you're giving day one is nearly nothing compared to 1 month and beyond. And I'll go into, some people will ask me, well, how much milk do you give to this age of a baby for breast milk? And I'll show you a little chart that Spectra has. But if you want to screenshot any, I mean, take little pictures, that's fine. But I also can give you this presentation entirely, and I'll have a recording. Okay, so of course, breast milk, what we've been told, and this is just from science, it's the most natural thing, right? And so the benefit of breast milk versus formula is that it's not made. It doesn't need to be preserved, right? So formula has preservatives in them. I say chemicals because it's not made by nature, right? So things that breast milk have, and potentially formula doesn't, is that there's these live blood cells that help with immune system. I thought this was so funny. I had a photo shoot for Ella yesterday, and we were talking about breast milk, and they were like, this stuff is like gold on the black market. And I was like, what the heck are they talking about? And I guess bodybuilders will like buy breast milk, guys. Like, that's insanity, for a lot of money. Like, what? Because it's higher in protein. So that's why I'm mentioning this, because it says more than 1,000 proteins in one source. Obviously, this is really science information, but there's growth factors that help with development. There's hormones that are regulated to help them with sleep, help them with growing. Antibodies, which we obviously know right now, antibodies to anything is super important during a pandemic, but obviously to the common cold, right? So it is known that babies that are fed breast milk have better immune systems, have better opportunity to fight infection. I did talk about the fat stores in breast milk that help not only for growth, but also for the nervous system, for the brain and eye development. And then here, this 14,000 microRNAs, that's just basically like gene DNA, keeping it as regular as possible to fight off disease that potentially maybe wouldn't be fought off if they were given formula. So I'm a huge advocate for breast milk, guys. I'm also a huge advocate for making sure that your baby gets fed. So I'm not saying that breast milk is the only answer, but of course you're all here because you're interested in breastfeeding and pumping. So that's the only reason why I'm talking mostly about that. So a question that people will say to me is fore milk and hind milk, right? And for me, they're two and the same. They don't mean anything different other than where the milk comes from. So the milk in the front of the breast, which is closer to the nipple, is supposed to be more like watery content, which means that likely if your breasts are engorged and really full, the milk in the front is going to make them feel full, but won't keep them full. They'll have nice wet diapers, but they're going to be crying in 2 hours, right? And so making sure that we get that fatty milk from the back, like I was talking about, in your armpit and up into your chest, is to keep them full. And so two things that we're going to talk about is these massagers, which you've probably all seen on my Instagram talking about them, as well as the pitcher method, which actually just mixes all the milk together for when you freeze the breast milk or just give it in a bottle. So we'll talk about that in a second. So how much and when? So this is from Spectra. The first day, look at how like little amount of milk that is. Like it's barely anything because of their cherry-sized belly. And so at each feeding, they have like minimal mLs of breast milk. And we were laughing this time, Johnny and I, because I don't know, I must have had like 1 ml pumped, and I was like so pumped that I got that much milk right away. And it was like post feed, and Johnny goes, oh, just wait until you get, 3 ounces. Like, it's going to be amazing. And now it's like, I want to like cry because now I'm getting overabundance, but I'm happy about it. But it's also very tedious and time consuming because I have so much milk, and there's reasons for that. So how much and when, this is a little calculation by Medela that uses your baby's weight in ounces. Now, guys, I don't know how much my baby weighs right now. Like, we went to the doctors the other day. I know the weight from then, but your baby's constantly growing. So I have a little, I mean, unless you have a baby scale at home, I personally don't care for the math calculation because I mean, like I said, their weight is ever changing. One thing that I do like to do is make a bottle. So for instance, the other day, Johnny made a bottle of 3 ounces, and if she took it, then great. That means she's at 3 ounces. But if she only hit 2.5, then that's how much she's basically taking in and being satisfied. So there's no right or wrong to exactly how much your baby needs. And you have to kind of experiment with it. So this is all just kind of like the facts. So I'm just giving you all this before I dive into the fun stuff. Breast milk life, it doesn't last forever. At room temperature, 4 hours after. So in this bottle, I could leave it on the counter and leave it at room temperature for 4 hours. After 4 hours, it's considered bad. And the reason for that is for bacteria. In a cooler with ice packs, 24 hours, but let's be real, ice packs are a pain in the ass and they melt. And so whether you're renewing those or not, you got to just be careful that it stays super cold. Refrigerator, 5 to 7 days. Now the goal is that you put everything in your fridge far back in the fridge, just so that it stays as cool as possible. So when you're opening the door, it doesn't get warm. And same thing goes for the freezer. Freezer here says 3 to 6 months. I basically go by the 4 rule. So 4 hours room temperature, 4 days in the fridge, 4 months in the freezer, right? So I just remember the number 4. All of these have like ranges. I suppose like not a big deal if you go over a little bit on the 4-month or the 4-day rule. And then here, once the milk is frozen, there's also new rules for when it gets thawed. So once it hits room temperature entirely, you can't like refreeze it. Same thing for the cooler, same thing for the fridge. It's good for 24 hours. As it says here, never refreeze thawed milk, and then never refreeze thawed milk, just because it's not good for you. Good for your baby's belly. Once a bottle has been drank from, I didn't know this. I might have known this, I don't know, but it just like stuck in my mind this time I was in the hospital. But once a bottle has been drank from, the good bacteria from the baby unfortunately goes in the bottle, and then the bacteria grows. So once a bottle has been drank from, once it starts, it's good for 1 hour. An hour and 5 minutes, not a big deal, but understand that you don't want to over measure, because then you might be left with nothing. So I always like do less, and then I can go get more, right? So I don't waste. We don't want to waste because this stuff is liquid gold and we work too hard for this. Okay, moving on. Okay, so one thing that I highly suggest, I'm going to start with some things that are like, you don't need to buy anything. These are things that are going to help you just by doing. Okay, so the first thing is the easy method. And I know this sounds really stinking weird. I don't know if I talked to Brianna about this. I feel like I did. Yes, I did. Easy stands for eat, activity, sleep, you time. And you time means mom time. Okay. Keeping a routine and keeping it simple is helpful for everybody, because anybody can follow it. And then the baby knows that there's a schedule, in that you've set the schedule and set the scene. A baby should not be ruling the world of how much, like, I don't know. I just think to myself, and I did this with Jack. I followed this method with Jack, unfortunately, I might judge some mamas when I'm watching them, because I'm like, oh my God, that baby is not hungry. Like, you just fed them like an hour ago. Like, there's no way that that baby's hungry. And the reason for that is because if they haven't slept yet, they're not ready to eat. I promise. Like, I promise. And one of the things in this book, so tonight, those that are on here, I got to make sure that I keep tabs. Don't leave, or I don't know how I'm going to be able to tell who's here, but there are some people that popped on after the fact. This book will explain all of this, but really it's like the first 2 chapters that are the most important. So making sure that once the baby wakes up, the reason they're waking up is because they want to eat. You feed them whatever you want to feed them. It doesn't have to be breast milk. That has nothing to do with it. Activity can literally mean changing their diaper or tummy time, or I mean, once they get a little older, the activity time does vary and get longer because they're able to stay awake longer. But the funny part about this method is that the signs and symptoms, as a nurse, I'm a nurse, of eating are similar to the signs and symptoms of sleeping, right? They're restless. They just want to go to sleep. So they act like they want to eat, but they don't, because they don't need to eat before bed. Eating, and this is something that I've learned over time. It takes a lot of effort to get yourself not to do this, but the reason we eat is to fuel our body to do things, right? And so if we're giving them breast milk or formula to sleep, they're not utilizing that as fuel, right? And so it's the same thing as an adult. So easy method: eat, activity, sleep, you time. And it's funny because my husband had a hard time understanding this. Like, he's like, they're hungry. He's hungry. I'm like, no, he's not hungry. He hasn't even slept yet. Like, and even if the sleep is only like for a half hour, then they can wake up and start the process again. And what the idea behind this is that if they get into this good routine of understanding what comes in what order, they're going to sleep like babies at night. I promise. My Jack boy, I mean, I guess I can't promise, but my Jack boy sleeps so well. And I'm already starting this process again with Ella because I know that it works. So this is our raffle prize, this book. So I've been taking down names. I'm trying, at least. I hope I don't miss anybody because I can't really see everyone. At the end, I'll pull a winner. There are some people that aren't hopping on live. So, all right, let me carry on here. Okay, so first and foremost, natural milk boosters, things that you can do to be able to enhance your milk supply without any devices, anything cool, is one, latch and position. So my Jack had a tongue tie, and I had to fight tooth and nail with the doctors to explain to them that my nipples freaking hurt, the skin is falling off, and there's a reason for it. And some of the nurses were like, oh yeah, this baby has a tongue tie. The pediatricians did not want to listen to me. I had to advocate for myself because, first of all, it shouldn't hurt. So remember that. It shouldn't hurt when you breastfeed. Yes, every once in a while, like if your nipples get dry, they will be a little uncomfortable. And positioning of the baby. So a baby has just been cooped up inside of you forever and ever and ever and ever. And so they hurt, like their bodies are sore, right? And so I haven't gone to the chiropractor yet. I'm actually going tomorrow, and Ella will be going. I didn't do this with Jack, but a lot of times it's just that their positioning of their neck is uncomfortable for them. So then they don't get the proper latch. So you have to really try navigating different positions. So the common one like this, where we all get like tense and our shoulders start to hurt and our backs start to hunch, that's tension, right? Tension and stress is not going to do anything for you. But positioning of that for a baby when they're like loosey-goosey and flopping all over is not good for them. Like, they're uncomfortable and they don't have the strength to hold themselves up. So for me right now, my position of choice is laying down. It's so much more comfortable for me. I can relax. And then obviously for Ella, she's eating much better that way. Football hold underneath where their feet are going back this way, that gives you the position of holding their head in place so that they're not like flopping all over the place. So there will be lactation consultants likely where you're at, where you give birth. Please ask for their guidance on that. I know it's a little uncomfortable, but they'll be able to help show you that. And things to help with position are pillows, tons and tons of pillows. Like, I was a crazy person asking everybody for all the pillows in the hospital. I probably had like 50 in my bed. But it definitely helps. I have carpal tunnel from pregnancy. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but it hasn't gone away, and it likely won't go away for many, many months. And so it's sucking the life out of me to be able to hold the baby. So pillows are where it's at. You have to have it because you're going to just make it worse. Feeding every 2 to 3 hours, even when they are sleeping for the first month, is super helpful. So I medically had to do this because of the weight loss that I had from both babies, where the pediatrician said, you got to wake them up at 3 hour mark. Like, that's like your last option. Now, babies that are newborn are super sleepy and lethargic and fall asleep at the breast. Like, you have to do anything and everything to get them awake. You know, taking the blankets off, changing their diaper. When I went to the newborn class at St. Vincent's, they were like, change the diaper after the feeding. And I'm like, bullshit. I need to wake this baby up. Like, I need to take their diaper off to wake them up so that they can feed. And if I have to change their diaper after, that's fine. But the idea in their mind is like, don't waste a diaper. I don't care about wasting a diaper. I want them to eat and be done with this in a timely fashion, not like one of the nurses said, like, the munch clock, where they're just eating a lot around the clock. Like, no, we got a feeding for 15, 20 minutes and get it done. And with that being said, don't watch the clock because you're going to go, 17 minutes, all done. And really, they're not done. So let the baby determine that the feed is over, is going to help really empty out your entire breast. And one of the things that I highly suggest, based off of the anatomy of your boob, is try to stay on one side until they get bigger, where they're probably going to feed off of both, because you want to make sure that they get all of that milk up in the top. Proper hydration. We should all be drinking half of your body weight in ounces per day. And so obviously when we're postpartum, we're not at our like optimum weight, right? We're probably a lot heavier. We need to be drinking that much more. Okay. And water, caffeine and liquor is going to dehydrate you more. So making sure that if you do decide to have a coffee, or you do decide to have any sort of caffeine, you supplement with more water. And one of the things that I do is literally, I'll be breastfeeding and I'll be like sipping out of a straw while I'm breastfeeding or pumping. Like, every time I'm doing some sort of feed or pump, I make sure that I fill up a cup and I drink the whole thing, just because your body really, really, really needs it. One of the other things that I utilize once a day is a hydrate formula. It's just a powdered drink that's a healthier form of Gatorade or like vitamin water. I did some research, and I'm not going to go into detail, about Body Armor, and there's another one, and it's insane how much sugar is in that formula. So if anybody's interested in, I have like a little packet here, but if anybody's interested in understanding what hydrate is, and if you wanted it, just let me know. Proper balanced nutrition is going to help with your supply. So a lot of times people are like, eat a ton of carbs, like, and you'll be good. No, because a ton of carbs end up, that's sugar, and that turns into fat. It stores differently, and for long term, it's not that great. It's only like a quick fix. We want to make sure that we are balanced with our fats, our proteins, and our carbs. And so I myself follow a diet plan that I've been following forever, but it does have calculations for pregnancy as well as breastfeeding. And so I know exactly how many fats, how many proteins, and how many carbs I need to eat in a day for my weight. And then eventually in 3 months, I'll be able to do like a weight loss program that's a little bit less as you go along, but it doesn't kill or tank your supply. meditation, relaxation, and rest. So we all know we don't, oh, I hear a crying baby. That means I'm getting a baby any second. When it comes to rest, you need to be resting when the baby rests. And I know that's really hard because you want to do all the things, but you got to get it done. One thing that helped me when I was pumping was actually listening to meditation in my ear, like getting in the zone to relax all the muscles, because when you're tense, it's not going to let out, right? So meditation is super important. Loose fitting clothing. So restricted bras are going to restrict the letdown and restrict the breast from filling. So honestly, when I'm at home, I wear like a tank top and it's really not pretty. But it's just to kind of let the girls out and just relax, okay? And it does help produce more. When you're wearing the tight fitted bras, it's pushing it into your chest. Another thing that they talked about that I read today, I was like a crazy person researching other things, but laying on your stomach presses on your boobs, presses the boobs in, which makes them smaller, right? So we want more supply. We don't want less supply. Additional pumping to stimulate your body to produce more, post-feed pumps. So I was doing it for a medical reason. You can decide if that's for you, but it's going to help your supply. Your body's going to recognize that, okay, baby's done, but if you keep pumping, your body doesn't know the difference between a pump and a baby. I'm going to tell you that right now. And so if you pump after, it's going to think that your body needs more milk for the baby, but you just put it in a container. Other little nutritional things, brewer's yeast. It can be found like actually in like a scooped form that you can put into shakes. I have it in like a little tea that I have packet, and then herbal teas. This one's called milkmaid tea. It's Earth Mama organic tea. And actually it makes me want to throw up thinking about it because I drank it so much with Jack. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but down the line, I know I'm going to need it. So supply and demand, make sure you're doing the things that you need to produce what you want. So like I talked about, your goals are your goals and your goals only. How much you want to store is ultimately up to you. And one thing is, when you don't remove all the milk that you can from your breast, your body recognizes that as I don't need to produce, right? So when our babies are tiny and small, like Ella's only drinking, like I said, 2.5 max 3 ounces at a time, but these jugs are holding a hell of a lot more than that. And if I didn't let it out, my body would say, oh, the baby doesn't need it, right? And then I would be losing out on that. And then potentially when she's bigger and needs more, my body might not produce it. So it's super important that you think about those things now, so that when you want to continue your journey, you have the ability to, and you're not restricted. Okay, so pumps, just real quick, because people were asking about a Medela versus Spectra. Those are usually the two that are offered at a hospital through your insurance. And know that you should try to find out from the hospital that you're delivering at what they have to offer, and if they have a program. So when I deliver at St. V's, they literally come in and say, what one do you want? I'm like, oh, when I had Jack, I had no idea. So I just took the Medela because that's what they use in the hospital. But this time I ended up getting the Spectra. You can get like black market, Facebook market, mom group, people that like literally don't use the pump that they get from insurance and they're just trying to give it away. So when I had Jack, I had a Medela pump, a Spectra pump. I actually had 2 Medela pumps. This is so ridiculous. And now, of course, I have another new one from Ella being born, and then I have purchased some. I'm crazy, I know. So Medela, I brought them up because I wanted you to understand this. Medela here, super, super easy, simple, like there's really not much to it. It is kind of loud. It's gross. And like it kind of haunts me in my sleep because this is the one I use the most when I got home with Jack. That's one of the cons, is that it's loud. It's an open system, and what that basically means is that there's potential that milk could go into it and ruin it. I don't really care about that. There's only one cycle, so like all it is a style. And so that's the speed. And then there's like this little like vibration thing that helps, like you have to press it, like if you want to change it to vibrate a little bit to help the supply go up. So it's super simple. Some people would prefer that because it's just easier. And then Spectra over here has like a ton of different dials. Obviously the on button, it's got a cute little light, which is nice. But cycles is how many times it's pumping in a certain amount of time. And then there's a vacuum volume. So it's got more options, and then it does still have the vibrating thing. So you just have more ability to change it up. One of the things people will ask me is, you have to use different sets of like tubing. You don't. Even though they come with two different kinds of sets, like it says a closed system versus an open system. These are the tubings that literally they gave me at the hospital, and I've used them for way too long. I probably should get new ones. But at the hospital, if they use the Medela pump, they have like these like little like weird things on the top because it's like a hospital grade. You just cut it off and they go into both of these pumps. And so I use my Dr. Brown's bottles. I don't use anything different. And I use my Medela, this is what I got at the hospital, my Medela flanges. So like I use the same setup for both pumps. So if you have two pumps, you don't have to feel like you have to have all of the things. Like I just use those things. So the other things that are here are Spectra Electric. I just got one from my sister-in-law. See, the pumps are floating around, guys. So you don't have to go out and buy anything. But I guess the Spectra Electric is offered through insurance as an upgrade, so you pay like a little bit more. I'm going to be honest, anything electric is never going to empty like the stationary pumps, guys. Okay, so I have used it. You use the same connectors with this, but this is really just like if I'm in the car, and I did do that going to the Cape because I was like running out the door and didn't have time. In the other one that I did get for Christmas is the Baby Buddha. Apparently, and I have not tried it yet. I'm waiting until I get to my new house to open it. But the Baby Buddha has a really, really serious electric motor compared to the Spectra and other electric mobile pumps. I have also purchased these special little cups. And it's just me trying these new things out and experimenting. But these cups here, and people probably saw me on Instagram spilling the milk everywhere. Everywhere. And so the idea behind the cups is that you'd be able to put them in your bra and like go for a walk. The problem with cups versus a flange is that you're not going to get everything out with a cup. So you don't want to use this all the time because you're not going to get the milk out of the back of the breast. Okay. So convenient, great, but not the best situation. I just used it when I was experimenting. And then, like I said, maybe when I'm in my new house, I go for a walk outside and I'm just like, throw these on. It's better than doing nothing. Okay. So getting into my fun devices. So Lavi massagers, the lactation consultants at my work and where I delivered didn't even know about these. And I was like the guru educating all the lactation consultants about these things. So the one here on the right is the one I originally had with Jack. It is literally just a vibrator, literally just a vibrator. And it basically, you just use it. This is a little bit different. This is the warming ones, but you just use it and push out the milk. So that can be used when you're pumping, that can be used when you're breastfeeding. So I just help Ella along. I just help her along with these little vibration tools. And so the warming ones for a long time were not available at all. And so once they finally were, I was like, oh, those puppies are coming to me. They warm up, and then you literally just like, I could put them on right now underneath my bra here and just sit here, and it just starts the process of letting the milk come down. So it cuts your time like in half for pumping. It cuts your time in half for feeding, honestly, because they're getting all of the milk in a sufficient amount of time. You might make them choke a little bit if it comes down too fast. But the benefit of the heat is that, I mean, I literally used to make a tea in the morning when I would be pumping and like put the teacup in between my boobs just to like help stimulate the flow. That's why they say like take a shower before you go to pump, because warmth helps let the breast milk down. So these are great. Like I said, I just massaging and pushing it down basically. I did receive a discount code. I reached out to all of these groups of little equipment things and asked them if they had anything. So this is 10% off. You just have to go to the actual website. Lavi Mom is their Instagram account. And then, like I said, anything that you purchase at checkout, if you do Olivia Grace 10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off, which I didn't even get 10% off. The next thing is Kindred Bravely Sublime Bra. So I got this because I got a stupid pumping bra from Target that didn't have straps, or it might have had straps, but they were like flimsy and didn't even hold up my huge buckets on my chest. And I had it on and it has this zipper and it just never was comfortable. I always felt like I was like trying to still hold up the flanges. It just was miserable. And so I found this one, and what I love about it is like you can wear it under anything. So yes, they're a little bit pricey. I think they're $49.99. They do, and I don't know if they still do, for medical workers, they do like a special every once in a while. So I got like a free one last spring, like when I was finishing my journey. I do have to say that the material of this bra is a little tight. So when I was breastfeeding with Jack, it was, I could wear a medium and I was fine. But then when I went to go put it on after Ella, and I was like, "Ooh, I need a large." It's getting better now. Of course, I was a little swollen, but it's twofold. It's got two clips. So one is a clip for pumping, and then the other one is a clip for nursing. So, and it's like a normal bra. Like you can wear it under anything. It's fantastic. It's great for work. Okay. And then I just took off some of their information about like free shipping if it's 59 or over, and then you get 10% off if you purchase two bras. They come in black and tan, and then they do have like a sports bra version. I haven't tried that one, but this is like a regular bra. It's great. Okay, Boki cups. So this is something, spilt milk. I saw somebody, I don't know who it was, but somebody recently spilt all of their milk that they just pumped so hard for, and it went everywhere. And we all know when we're exhausted in the middle of the night, even if we're making formula bottles, even if we're just warming up even I use these for Jack right now, just pouring milk into a bottle with a baby in my arm. These just help on the counter so that these don't go anywhere. You're able to do everything with one hand, and it just keeps it in place, and you can pour everything into it and it just stays in place rather than like slipping and sliding all over your counter. And they come in cute little colors there. So they also gave me a 10% coupon code, just something that is more like a hands-free kind of help. And then again, on Instagram, you can follow them if you're interested in looking at what they are. Okay, so these are the two life-saving methods that I found at the end of my journey with Jack and didn't experiment until obviously this time. So let's start. Okay. So I'm getting ready to pump. I'm going to just share it as it is. I'm getting ready to pump. I've got whatever pump I decide to use. Right now it's Spectra is my friend. And I've got my bottles. And I've got my flanges. And right now I'm pumping for 15 minutes at a time post feed. Great. Okay. Milk is in there. Pretend. I'm going to literally keep I'm not going to wipe these. I'm not going to clean them. I'm not going to do anything. Okay. I'm going to take this and put it in a Tupperware container. Maybe use those cups so I don't spill it all. Yeah, see, here I go. Cover both of the bottles here. I don't have a cover for this one, but we're going to pretend. These go directly into the fridge. Okay, so there's no cleaning of bottles in between pumping. Goes directly in the fridge. Cover goes on this. This goes directly into the fridge. And the reason for the fridge is because it's cold, and the idea is that cold reduces bacterial growth, right? If you leave these things out, for any length of time, bacteria grows because of the warmth. On the top of this, I put a sticker. I kind of was slacking this time, but I put a sticker to mark off how many times I've used this set of pump supplies. And so the idea is that they're good for 3 sessions or 10 hours. And it's just saved me like so much hassle and work that pumping comes with, that I'm telling you guys that this could be a game changer from you doing this pumping thing or not doing this pumping thing. Like, I don't know how many times I would be looking at Johnny going, you're gonna clean those freaking dishes? Because I sure has just worked way too hard to be freaking cleaning bottles all night, right? So this is like a way to be able to avoid the stress of having to kill our hands, having a ton of bottles to clean all the time. It's just eliminated so much time and effort. And so once these are in the fridge and they're cooling, the reason I don't have a pitcher, guys, is because my pitcher is getting full, and I didn't have time to put them into storage bags yet. But the next time I'm ready to go pump, or if I need to use a bottle, I'm going to dump all of this into a pitcher. And the pitcher with the spout is the best, because then you can just use that as your pourer when you're going to put these into bags. But then that requires that this doesn't get cleaned every time, right? So all I have on my mini counter right now in my mini apartment, because I don't have a house, is like when they're clean, when they're getting cleaned, is this and these pump parts. I don't have multiple bottles. So when I had Jack, I would have all these bottles everywhere because I was storing milk in bottles until it was time to freeze them, or I was storing milk in bottles because Johnny would potentially have to use the milk, right? And so instead of that, you can utilize the pitcher method, which actually helps balance the milk. So we talked about hind milk and fore milk, right? So the milk will be balanced. It's easy prepping bottles and storage bags. So because I have the pitcher ready to rock and roll, I actually have been giving a little bit of immune booster to Jack in his whole milk in the morning, just to give him a little bit of something. He doesn't know the damn difference, but that's another thing, is that if there's extra from a day, like if somebody's exclusively pumping, you prep your bottles for the next day and you're like, oh, I got extra today. You can either store it or you can give it away to another kid. So you're chilling bottles directly and dumping into the pitcher when it's time to pump again. You never want to put hot milk, which is like directly off the boob, with cold milk, because hot milk produces bacteria, cold milk is good. So keeping it separate until it's chilled, then you put it all together. Okay, just to be clear. That's like a sanitary thing. Now, the CDC and the FDA do not approve of this because they don't know how great your refrigerator is, and they don't know how sanitary you are with your hands. So they're never going to approve this, but so many moms and so many consultants do this, and it's totally up to you if this works for you. But I'm going to tell you that it's super helpful. The only thing that they say is that if you have an immunocompromised child or an issue with their GI tract, don't do this. You don't want to compromise them. Okay. These were like a last minute thing just because Johnny found them and thought it was funny. But these little clips, you can't even see what they are, but I just hooked them onto my baby bag. Dinky Ninky clips. Helps to be able to do all the things that you need to do, like when it comes to breastfeeding and maybe pumping, when you want to clip something to something, right? And so they come in like a pack of 4. I don't know. I just thought it was something that was helpful and something I didn't really think about, but there I am in LA pumping in the middle of a freaking museum. Who the hell knows? Or no, I'm breastfeeding Jack. Just something that's helpful, and you can even cover, like you can use them for other things. Like I use them in the car if I'm breastfeeding. I use them to cover his car seat if he's sleeping and there's a ton of sun. There's just stupid things. Okay, don't waste the milk. So after an hour in a bottle, if the baby doesn't drink from the bottle, the milk does sour. I wrote does drink from, oh no. If the baby does drink from the bottle, and the milk will sour if they do, because of bacteria from their mouth. If you forget about milk being out in the fridge over a suggested amount of time, it sours. Do not put it down the drain. Have a waste bottle in your fridge. milk baths, milk soap, milk lotion. You can just Google that and you can find different recipes. Super simple. Okay. Oh, that's it. Wow. that ended up going a lot faster at the end than my beginning. If you know somebody that this would be helpful for, please, please, please let me know so I can send them the YouTube link. I am going to stop the recording so it's not too long. And it looks like my computer is going to die soon. So let me stop share, stop recording.